Hi everyone, we are going to be discussing this week signs in the skies. As I have mentioned before, God uses the sun, stars, and moon to speak to us and to communicate with us, to show us different signs, and He is definitely showing us a lot of stuff right now. This information is incredible to me. It really is. I have been putting little things out there on Facebook for the past couple weeks when I find new information that my mind is blown with all this information because it's so fascinating and interesting, and I just find it so incredible that out of every single generation that has ever been, we are the ones that are understanding and seeing these signs happen right before our eyes. Incredible. So keep that in mind as you're going through this, that nobody has understood this information until current day. That's actually another prophecy that is coming true. God had mentioned to Daniel that when he was telling him these prophecies, that this information was not for him and for him not to worry about it. But now that we're understanding it and seeing these things happen right in front of us, that's another prophecy that's being fulfilled. So I'll get into the presentation in just a second, but I just wanted to give you a quick update on what's going on. If you've watched some of my other previous videos, I had done a video about the Psalm 83 and the Ezekiel 38 wars. If you're paying attention to any worldwide news, you'll see that the Middle East is kind of in crisis again. Always is, really. But Yemen is kind of falling apart, and Saudi Arabia, their leader just died, and they're having a new leader come into place. So that really could, once again, kind of catapult us into the beginning stages of Psalm 83, Ezekiel 38. Saudi Arabia is a supporter of Yemen, and they work together. And so we'll just see what happens in the coming weeks, coming months, about where their new leadership takes them. So anyways, I just wanted to give that quick update. That way you can kind of keep on track and keep up to date with what's going on. So we're going to get into the signs in the sun, moon, and stars. And let me try to pull you in, get you the best view that you can get. Okay, so the universe is a really big place, obviously. We know this. We know that it's big, but do we understand exactly how big it really is? I doubt it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a couple of things that will make you feel very small, and it will give you an idea of just how big this universe that we're living in is. Francis Chan, he's the author of Crazy Love. If you've not read that, I would highly recommend it. It's a great book. And he's also a pastor, and he's done this video to show us how small Earth really is compared to the universe. Go ahead and click on that.
What you're seeing right now. First of all, this is the Earth. Okay, just you're taking off from the Earth from Southern California, and we're gonna rise up a little bit here. Okay, we're gonna pull away from it. We're gonna pull higher. Now this is at about 10 kilometers. Like if you climb Mount Everest, this is what you'd see. You'd see the curvature of the Earth from that distance. Now we're going to climb up even higher. This is at 100 kilometers. And you're a fourth of the way to the space station now. This is what you'd see. If you get to this level, you're considered an astronaut. Just if you ever get there. Okay, now we're going 100,000 kilometers. 100,000 kilometers from the Earth. You're a fourth of the way to the moon. That's what the Earth would look like. Now we're going to pull away to 1,000,000 kilometers. At 1,000,000 kilometers, there's the moon. Okay? There's the moon. You can barely see the Earth. You're at 1,000,000 kilometers now. You're past the moon. And now we're going to go to 100 million kilometers. 100 million kilometers. You're still not to the sun. The sun's 93 million miles away. But now we're going to go to 10 trillion kilometers. There's the sun. You just passed the sun. Now you would see all of the planets at 10 trillion kilometers. And now we're at 10 to the 15th power. That means 10 with 15 zeros. I don't know what that number is. 15 zeros, and the sun's just like a bright dot amidst other stars. And now we're going to 10 light years away. At 10 light years away, come on, let's go. Zoom, there you go. 10 light years away now you just see the sun with like 11 other stars that are kind of its neighbors. You know, that's our sun. And now we're going to go 1,000 light years away. At 1,000 light years away, you wouldn't even see our sun anymore. These are just a bunch of stars close to it in this cluster inside the Milky Way. Now we're going to zoom out even further, and that's the Milky Way we live in. See that cluster of stars? Those are about 100,000 stars that are closest to our sun. You can't see our sun anymore at this point. Now this is our Milky Way galaxy, and forget about the Earth. Okay, there's our Milky Way galaxy that we live in. And we're just buried in there somewhere. And we're going to pull out even further, and you'll see that our galaxy is actually, it's a big galaxy, and all those other things you're seeing now are galaxies. And we're going to pull away 10 million light years now. His next scene is 10 million light years. Those are all galaxies you see. Amidst our Milky Way, several hundred galaxies. Now we're going to go 100 million light years away. This is the last one. We're going to zoom out to 100 million light years. Those are all clusters of galaxies. Galaxies and clusters of galaxies. You won't even see our Milky Way galaxy anymore amidst that. We don't have telescopes that go beyond that little sphere there.
Pretty incredible, right? Makes you feel very, very small, or at least it makes, at least it makes me feel very, very small. I'm going to show you another video. It's called If Earth Was the Size of a Golf Ball by Louis Giglio. And sorry, I accidentally hit that button. Let's just get us out of there. And let's click on this YouTube video.
Would you guys welcome my friend Louis Giglio? You guys can have a seat. Thank you so much. Man, what a great confession. We're calling this, I think you knew this already, the How Great Is Our God Tour. Not just because God has given Chris this phenomenal song that circled the globe, but we're calling it the How Great Is Our God Tour because we are here tonight worshiping a God that is far beyond anything we could ever dream of or imagine. We are here tonight to worship a huge, massive God of grace and glory. If there's anything that can happen tonight, our heart is that we will leave tonight with at least a couple of things having happened to us. One being that our view of God will be completely blown up all over again, and that the view that we have of God will be expanded in this place tonight. And that we will leave here with the confidence that He is able to hold on to us and hold us together no matter what circumstances come our way in this lifetime. And if you were with us on the Indescribable Tour, we sort of took a swing at that first part, looking at the bigness of God and the greatness of the universe. Anybody make it out to the Indescribable Tour, by the way? You guys were there? The story of it in a nutshell was that the heavens are telling the glory of God. Their expanse declares the work of His hands. In other words, all you have to do is look up and you see the size of the God that we're worshiping tonight. We ended that, just a little review, with this galaxy right here, the Whirlpool Galaxy. You're like, man alive, we're talking about astronomy at a Christian worship service. Why not? The God that we're worshiping tonight is the one who created that right there. It's called the darling of astronomy. The reason why is it's sitting completely perpendicular to us on Earth. And when we look up at it, we get this beautiful view. But check this out. The Whirlpool Galaxy is 31 million light years away from where you're sitting right now. Okay, they got nothing in here tonight. 31 million light years away. That's just the first little thing we got to catch up with tonight. By the way, the story opens like this. In case you forgot, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and He said, let there be light, and there was light. And that was a phenomenal moment when that happened, because light came out of the mouth of God traveling 186,000 miles a second. That's how fast light is traveling through the universe. And so a light year, therefore, is how far light travels in 1 year, and I'll do the math for you. It's 5.88 trillion miles is a light year. So, as we talked about before, when you start to get around in the neighborhood of God, the mile is not going to help you. The yardstick, the ruler, the tape measure, these things are of no value in the universe that God has made. We're using a ruler called a light year that's 5.88 trillion miles long. And if you'd like to go to the Whirlpool Galaxy, be my guest. All you have to do is multiply 31 million, that's how many light years it is away, by 5.88 trillion miles, and that's the distance that you've got to cover. Anybody with me so far? I'm wondering, are there any science lovers here tonight? Because we're going to have a little scientific content tonight, and I need to know if anybody's going to be with me so far. So you do the math, or you could look at it a different way. You just have to travel 186,000 miles a second for 31 million years, and voila, you will arrive at the Whirlpool Galaxy. Second thing that's pretty stunning, given that our God made that, is it contains 300 billion stars. In that one galaxy, 300 billion stars. And it is one of hundreds of billions of other galaxies in the known universe that God has made. And it just reminds us all over again tonight, man, this God that we're singing to tonight, he's enormous. He's bigger than anything we've ever dreamed of. He's bigger than our wildest imagination of him. But we ended by looking inside that thing, and this is pretty stunning. Those of you who've seen it remember, but the Hubble Space Telescope is circling the Earth at 360 miles above the Earth, and it takes amazing images of these galaxies and other phenomenon of the cosmos, and it looked into that white core of the Whirlpool Galaxy, and lo and behold, there is a black hole in there. And we'd never seen it before until Hubble could take an image of it, and I found this on NASA's site, hubblesite.org. This is what Hubble sent back to us from 31 million light years away from the black hole core of the Whirlpool Galaxy. They send us back this image right here, and it's just crazy. It's crazy. It's the glory of God, the grandeur of God. It's the grace of God and the mercy of God everywhere we look. It's the imprint of God in all of creation, everywhere we turn. And tonight we just want to begin with the bigness of God, the grandeur of God all over again. We're going to do it by looking at 4 stars. Can you handle 4 stars tonight? The first one's easy because there's just one star in our solar system, and that star is called the sun. Thank you very much. Yes, it's our own star. It's there's an image of it for you, by the way. It's a little more fierce than we often think. It's 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit on the surface, but what I want you to see about it is how big it is. It's 93 million miles away, so when you're looking up in the sky, it's pretty good pace out there. By the way, light traveling 186,000 miles a second. It's only taken 8 minutes to cover that 93 million mile journey to touch your skin here in Atlanta, Georgia. But what I want you to see is the size of it. It's like 1,000,000 times the size of the earth, and that matters to us tonight when you hear what the psalmist said. Listen to his words. By the word of the Lord, this is Psalm 33, the heavens were made. In other words, God didn't lift a finger when he made the universe. By the word of the Lord, the heavens were made. But he goes on to say, their starry hosts by the breath of his mouth. So we're looking at something so intense that we don't want to get any closer than 93 million miles away, which is what we are right now. And then we read that God just breathes out stars. It's crazy to think about it. 1,000,000 times the size of the earth. So here's a little perspective that sort of changed my life. If the earth were the size of a golf ball, okay, the sun would be 15 feet in diameter. Okay, that didn't seem to move anybody either, so let me try it a different way. Let me just try it just a different way. I thought I might need this, so I brought a golf ball, okay? So all through the evening, this is going to represent Earth, all right? So this is where we are. I need everybody in the building to look as closely as you can and find yourself, okay? And when you found yourself, I want you to nod your head so that I know you've located you on the earth, okay? You nodding your head? Okay, you found yourself. If the earth were a golf ball, the sun would be 15 feet in diameter. That's not 15 feet in diameter. Can we blow that up just a hair and maybe give them 15 feet in diameter? So here's a little perspective for you, okay? Is this working for anybody? Here we are on the earth, and that's the sun. It's so big. It's so big, you could put 960,000 Earths inside the sun. So if the earth were a golf ball and the sun were 15 feet in diameter, you could put 960,000 golf balls inside that 15-foot diameter sun. That's enough golf balls, by the way, because I know that seems like a big number, to fill a school bus with golf balls could fit inside the 15-foot in diameter sun. It's a massive star, and it's one of hundreds of billions of stars in the Milky Way galaxy, our cul-de-sac in the neighborhood called the cosmos that God has made. It's huge, and we're worshiping a star-breathing God tonight. But I want to tell you about the second star, okay? Because the second star absolutely wrecked my life. I heard about it when I was a high school student here in Atlanta. One of our youth leaders did a talk, and he mentioned this star. I didn't know how to talk to God for about 2 months after I heard about this star. It's called Betelgeuse or Betelgeuse. You can pick your pronunciation. I'm obviously going with Betelgeuse, and Betelgeuse is incredible. Here it is in the night sky. I know it doesn't look incredibly ferocious, but it's 427 light years away. So that's 427 times 5.88 trillion miles away from us right now. Draw it in a little closer with the Hubble Space Telescope, and you can start to get a little bit of the feeling of its intensity. But this is the crazy thing about Betelgeuse. Are you ready for this? Betelgeuse is twice the size. Are you ready? You think I'm going to say twice the size of the sun? Oh no. It's twice the size of the Earth's orbit around the sun, Betelgeuse is. It's crazy. If the earth were a golf ball, Betelgeuse would be the height of 6 Empire State Buildings on top of each other. Now, come on. Have you seen the Empire State Building? I mean, maybe what you're going to need to do is gather the family, get a golf ball, get some plane tickets, and fly up to New York. And you're going to go into Midtown, you're going to take your golf ball and put it on the sidewalk outside the Empire State Building. Don't worry about people thinking you're crazy. They're not even going to notice you in New York. You're going to go across the street. You're going to look up at the Empire State Building and imagine 5 more Empire State Buildings on top of the Empire State Building. That's Betelgeuse, and that's the Earth, and somewhere you're on it. You could fit 262 trillion Earths inside Betelgeuse. So if the Earth were a golf ball, that would be enough golf balls to fill up the Superdome with golf balls. 3,000 times. When I heard that as a teenager, that stumped me right there. Because most of my praying had been advising God, correcting God, suggesting things to God, drawing diagrams for God, reviewing things with God, counseling God. The third star, can you go a little bit bigger with me? The third star is called Musifi. Here it is in the night sky. It's that gold star to the top left. We have the big image of it. It's 3,000 light years away, but I just want you to see it in the span of all these little glittering stars, so that you know that at times when you look up at night, it is not just twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. I'm telling you what you are. What you are is intense and huge and massive and ferocious is what you are. And this one used to be called Herschel's Garnet Star. Check it out. If the Earth were a golf ball, Musifi would be the width of 2 Golden Gate bridges end to end. Apparently you're going to need to go from New York to the West Coast. Go to San Francisco with your family and your golf ball. Place your golf ball at the beginning of the Golden Gate Bridge. Go across the bay into Oakland to a high place where you can see the entire Golden Gate Bridge. Another second Golden Gate Bridge will be in your imagination. Span all the way back the 2 Golden Gate Bridges to the very beginning and find your golf ball over there. That's the Earth, and somewhere you're on it. One of the stars in the Milky Way galaxy. It's so big you could fit 2.7 quadrillion Earths inside this one star. Thank you so much. Where have you been all night? Now, quadrillion we have not talked about, and I need to explain this just briefly because I don't know about you, but I do not understand the national debt or any numbers bigger than about $875.28. I get that number. Go big bigger than that, I don't know. But you need to understand a quadrillion, okay? Because this star is crazy big. A quadrillion, let's do it this way. Everybody knows a million, right? How many of you know what a million is? You can kind of get your head around a million. Everybody? All right. You know that a billion's 1,000 million, and a trillion is 1,000 billion, and a quadrillion is 1,000 trillion, right? Everybody knew that? Here's the perspective. This changed my life, right? A million seconds ago, 12 days ago. Isn't that cool? See, that saves you doing that on your little calculator at home, which I dare you to try to do when you get home tonight. But a billion seconds ago, you're thinking, oh my goodness, if it's 12 days ago, I'm going all the way back to like September with you, Louis. This must be crazy, right? How about May 1975 is a billion seconds ago? You're like, whoa, that's a little bit bigger than a million. Oh yeah. A trillion seconds ago, you're like, I'm on the 1800s. No. Christopher Columbus? No. 29,700 BC is a trillion seconds ago. A quadrillion seconds ago, 30,800,000 years ago is a quadrillion seconds ago. We're talking about a really large number, and Musifi is so big, you could put 2.7 quadrillion Earths inside this one star. But it is not even the biggest star we have found. I love science. And science has just brought us the largest star they found. It's called, are you ready for this? Canis Majoris. Now, I'm no linguist, but that's a cool name for the biggest star we've found so far. I think that means the big dog star, and that's exactly what it is. I bring it to you as a little bitty purple glow just to the right of center there. But Canis Majoris, oh wow. If the Earth were a golf ball, Canis Majoris would be the height of Mount Everest. Thank you. You just saved your family plane fare from California to Kathmandu, Nepal. Almost 6 miles above sea level, the highest point on the planet, and I just dare you to get up there and unzip the parka and pull out your golf ball. You could fit 7 quadrillion Earths inside Canis Majoris. That's enough Earths, if the Earth were a golf ball, to cover the entire state of Texas in golf balls, 22 inches deep. You see the one you're on? Maybe this will help a little bit more. This absolutely blew my mind. Just a little journey through our solar system. Everyone knows our planets and sort of how we fit in the story here. You see really quickly that we're not even the biggest deal in our own solar system, but as Earth comes by, you have to know tonight that we are living on a privileged planet. Anyone would tell you we're living at one of the most special places, if not the most special place in all of creation. But Neptune comes by, and Saturn, and then Jupiter, and you're like, okay, we're not all that big, even in our own little cul-de-sac. I just noticed the blue dot fading away is not the Earth. That's Neptune. The Earth has gotten too small to see anymore. Sirius comes by. Little plug for satellite radio. Not the biggest star, but the brightest star that we have found so far. Pollux, which we didn't mention. Arcturus. Such a beautifully named one, Regal. But then the one that messed me up. Our third star, Musifi. Musifi's cousin, W. Cephei. Canis Majoris.
Okay, so hopefully that has shown you how big of a universe we live in and how small we really are. And the whole point really behind that is, even though the universe is so big, just massive, we can't even wrap our heads around exactly how big the universe is. It shows us that even though we're so small within such a big universe and a big plan that God has, that God still cares for us. Think about how many times you literally have felt God move in your specific personal life. When you think about how He loves us compared to how big the universe is, it must make you feel really special. I know it does for me. So God has an exact plan for us. John 3:16 tells us how much He loves us. It says, "For God so loved the world that He gave His one and only Son, that whoever believes in Him shall not perish but have eternal life." I'm going to click on this article here that explains... Yeah, let me go back here real fast. Sorry, it's from creationist.org, and it explains more about the universe and how God created it. So let's go ahead. I'm just going to read this right here, and if you need to pause it and read it for yourself, please feel free. 7 books of the Bible reference this event starting from about 1000 BC in the book of Psalms. The title is 17 verses in the Bible state that God expanded the size of the universe from its original size. What effect did that have on time and on the red and blue shift? So here we go. To about 518 BC in the book of Zechariah. So that's a span of almost 500 years. This stretching of the universe was done during the creation week described in Genesis. Dr. Russell Humphrey suggests in his book Starlight in Time that it may have been given the universe an older look. That it may have given the universe an older look the further you move away from it into the outermost reaches of the universe. From Earth's perspective, the universe would be about 6,000 to 10,000 years old. However, in the outermost reaches of the universe, the rapid expansion has given those galaxies the appearance of being billions of years old, even though they aged that much in what is most likely than 24 hours. Current evolutionary thinking suggests that the universe is still expanding. This is based in a large part of the belief that the red shift indicates that the stars and galaxies are moving away from each other. However, Isaiah 40:22 seems to suggest that this expanding of the galaxies was a one-time event that occurred in a very short amount of time, probably less than 24 hours, and that the expansion may no longer be occurring. Tents and curtains don't keep expanding once they're fully opened up. They are finite in size. So let's read Isaiah 40:22. It says, "It is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth, and the inhabitants thereof as grasshoppers, that stretcheth out the heavens as a curtain, and spreadeth them out as a tent to dwell in." Furthermore, none of the Bible verses appear to suggest that the expansion is still going on. Do scientists really know what the impact would be of having the universe expanded at what was most likely 1 million or even 1 billion times faster than the speed of light? How would such a rapid expansion affect the visible red and blue shift we see today in space? How would this affect time, especially at the outer edges of the universe? Could the red shift that evolutionists believe indicate an expanding universe actually be the result of this rapid stretching of the universe that started and ended about 6,000 years ago? And below, I'm going to read you some Bible verses that explain more about how God expanded the universe very quickly, and that it's no longer expanding, even though it's huge and stars and planets and we all move, it's not expanding. So Ezekiel 1:22, and the likeness of the firmament upon the heads of the living creature was as the color of the terrible crystal stretched forth over their heads above. Again, that's talking about how God stretched out the heavens. We've already read Isaiah 40:22. Isaiah 42:5. Thus saith God the Lord, that he created the heavens and stretched them out. He that spread forth the earth, and that which cometh out of it. He that giveth breath unto the people upon it, and the spirit of them, and walk therein. So in that Bible verse there, you can see that God is the one who stretched out the universe. All the stars that you just saw in the video, the huge stars, all of the galaxies. The Bible is saying that God is the one who did that. And here he's also saying that, he is the one, he is the creator. So there's a lot of Bible verses here that confirm all of this. Feel free to come back to this website and read all through them, but that's a few just to have you understand that God is the creator of the universe. Scripture backs it up. So you can see right here, this is the link if you want to go back. If you want to go back and read all of those Bible verses. It talked about the red shift and the blue shift. And just very quickly, I'll kind of explain what that is. Space.com, if it's going to let me scroll down. Okay, let's see. There we go. Okay. Redshift and blueshift describe how light changes as objects in space, such as stars or galaxies, move closer or further away from us. The concept is key to charting the universe's expansion. Visible light is a spectrum of colors which is clear to anyone who has looked at a rainbow. When an object moves away from us, the light is shifted to the red end of the spectrum as its wavelengths get longer. If an object moves closer, the light moves to the blue end of the spectrum as its wavelengths get shorter. So that just kind of gives you an idea of redshift and blueshift. So a lot of scientists believe that, like I said, the universe is expanding, but like I said, the creationists out there and the people that follow the Bible and read everything word for word, it says very clearly that God is the one who expanded it and that it's no longer expanding. Like I said, it seems from the scriptures that God expanded it within a 24-hour time frame. Okay. Why should we study this? Because I know that there can be some confusion about astronomy versus astrology. I'm just going to go ahead and read the definitions here. Astronomy is what we're doing. That's what we're studying. We're not studying astrology, but let me read the definition for you. Astronomy is a natural science which is the study of celestial objects such as stars, galaxies, planets, moons, asteroids, comets, and nebulae. The physics, chemistry, and evolution of such objects and phenomena that originate outside the atmosphere of Earth, including a supernova explosion, gamma ray burst, and cosmic microwave background radiation. A related but distinct subject, cosmology, is concerned with studying the universe as a whole. Astronomy is one of the oldest sciences. The early civilizations and recorded history, such as the Babylonians, Greeks, Indians, Egyptians, Nubians, Iranians, Chinese, and Maya, or the Mayans, performed methodical observations of the night sky. However, the invention of the telescope was required before astronomy was able to develop into modern science. Historically, astronomy has included disciplines as diverse as astrometry, celestial navigation, observational astronomy, and the making of calendars, but professional astronomy is nowadays often considered to be synonymous with astrophysics. So, astrology is where it consists of several pseudoscientific systems of divination based on the premise that there is a relationship between astronomical phenomena and events in the human world. Many cultures have attached importance to the astronomical events, and the Indians, Chinese, and Mayans developed elaborate systems for predicting terrestrial events from celestial observations. In the West, astrology most often consists of a system of horoscopes purporting to explain aspects of a person's personality and predict future events in their life based on the positions of the sun, moon, and other celestial objects at the at the time of their birth. The majority of professional astrologers rely on such systems. So I hope that makes sense to you on the differences between the two and why we're studying astronomy and why we are not studying astrology. Astrology is false information that the enemy likes to use to try to get people to look towards other things for information rather than, you know, for God. So if we credit God for putting the sun, moon, and stars in the sky, and we look at it through the biblical lens, then I think we're okay studying it. But if we start to say, well, I'm a Leo and this person's a Virgo, I don't even know what all of that means, really, but, you know, we may or may not get along. I think that's just so incredibly silly, and I can't believe anybody really believes that. So, anyways, okay. So God is to be given the credit for all of it. We should not follow astrology, as astrology is a false teaching, like I said. While God uses the sun, stars, planets, and the moon to speak to us, these items do not have power over us, as astrology teaches. God is the ultimate power. I love this next verse. It's from Job 38. And, you know, I'll just go ahead and stop right there and just tell you, if you've ever struggled with any hardships, read the book of Job. It's an incredible book that speaks exactly about why bad things happen to good people, and you know how to kind of overcome it. So, okay, so let's read. Can you? And this is God. I'm sorry. This is God speaking here. That's why I've put it in red. It says, "Can you bind the chains of Pleiades? Can you loosen Orion's belt? Can you bring forth the constellations in their seasons, or lead out the bear with its cubs? Do you know the laws of the heavens? Can you set up God's dominion over the earth?" So I'm sorry, that's not God speaking. That's Job speaking for God. I apologize for that. But anyways, that's Job 38, 31 through 33. But my whole point here is saying that God is specifically the one that put Orion in the sky, that put the constellations and their seasons. And when he talks about the bear with its cubs, those are other constellations that he's referring to. Okay, so I was going to have you watch this Star of Bethlehem video at this point during the presentation, but I'm actually going to skip over it and come back to it at the end because it's an incredible video that speaks about exactly here, the Star of Bethlehem. But we'll come back to that. Okay, so let's go into Revelation 12 and let's really dig in deep into the constellations that are going to be happening in reference to Bible end time prophecy. So Revelation 12, it's called The Woman and the Dragon. A great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns on its heads. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to the earth. The dragon stood in front of the woman who was about to give birth so that it might devour her child the moment he was born. She gave birth to a son, a male child, who will rule over the nations with an iron scepter, and her child was snatched up to God and to his throne. The woman fled into the wilderness to a place prepared for her by God, where she might be taken care of for 1,260 days. Then war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. But he was not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven. The great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil, or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. He was hurled to the earth, and his angels with him. Then I heard a loud voice in heaven say, "Now I have come, the salvation and the power, and the kingdom of our God, and the authority of his Messiah. For the accuser of our brothers and sisters, who accuses them before our God day and night, has been hurled down. They triumphed over him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. They did not love their lives so much as to shrink from death. Therefore rejoice, you heavens, and you who dwell in them. But woe to the earth and the sea, because the devil has gone down to you. He is filled with fury because he knows that his time is short. When the dragon saw that he had been hurled to the earth, he pursued the woman who had given birth to the male child. The woman was given the 2 wings of a great eagle, so that she might fly to the place prepared for her in the wilderness, where she would be taken care of for a time, times a half a time. She would be taken care of for a time, times and a half a time, out of the serpent's reach. Then from his mouth the serpent spewed water like a river to overtake the woman and sweep her away with torrent. But the earth helped the woman by opening its mouth and swallowing the river that the dragon had spewed out of its mouth. Then the dragon was enraged at the woman and went off to wage war against the rest of her offspring, those who keep God's commands and hold fast their testimony about Jesus. So that's Revelation 12, 1 through 17. So, it's so interesting. We just read that. So, Revelation 12 in our skies in 2017. Now, let me go back and say, I know to the majority of you, I probably sounded like I was speaking another language when I was just reading that. It made no sense. It was confusing, and you're about ready to shut this video off, but please don't. Let me keep explaining. So, the book of Revelation was written by a man named John. He had been given visions about when the end would be here and what would happen during that time frame, and so that's why he wrote what he wrote. It was a vision, of what he was seeing. So we are now, like I said, the generation that is starting to understand what all of that means, what the book of Revelation really means. There have been people in the past that have, understood it somewhat, but we're really seeing everything kind of unfold, and God's really given us the knowledge to understand exactly what those visions mean. So, Mark Kahn, he is an author of the book, What Will Be the Sign of Your Coming, and you can look at this information on his website, and they have the website right up here, markkahn.org. Okay, so go ahead and kind of keep this picture in mind and keep looking at it. I'm going to read right here something from Mark Kahn's website. It says, on September 23rd, 2017, there is an astronomical alignment that occurs only on that day. The constellation Virgo, or the Virgin, Virgo means the Virgin, will be clothed in the sun, since the constellation will be in the sky during the daylight hours. Here she's clothed in the sun. The sun's right here. The moon will be at her feet, and the constellation Leo will be on her head. So you can see Leo's right here. Leo only contains 9 stars, but on the morning of September 23rd, 2017, there will be 3 additional stars, with Mercury, Venus, and Mars combining with Leo, crowning her with 12 stars. So, if you're familiar, planets are sometimes called stars too. Let's see. Jupiter, the king of the planets, will be exiting through her legs, giving birth to it. And so you can see Jupiter is right here. Jupiter is called the king planet. You can Google that and look that up. Okay. So it continues to say, this exact alignment only occurs on that day. You can confirm this by downloading the free software Stellarium and research it for yourself. I have done that. I've downloaded Stellarium and looked at it several different ways, and this information is correct. It's incredible, and it's correct. And I'll show you guys on my own program, my own Stellarium program here in just a few minutes, what it looks like. So, okay, so there have been times where some of these conditions have been met. For instance, in 2011, the moon was at her feet. When it says her, we're talking about the constellation Virgo here. The moon was at her feet, and she was clothed with the sun. But in 2017, all 4 of the specific things mentioned in Revelation 12 occur. She's clothed in the sun will be shining through her, covering her with its light. 2, the moon will be at her feet. Because of the phase of the moon, she appears to be standing on top of it. And this right here, I'm going to show you on my, like I said, my own stellarium that I've downloaded, that the moon does continue to kind of go right down underneath of her feet later in the day. Giving birth, the third thing, giving birth to the male child. In different years, she gives birth to some of the other planets like Mercury, Saturn, or Venus, but only in 2017 does she give birth to Jupiter, the king planet. Again, look up the king planet and you'll find Jupiter. Notice in the image from Stellarium that using the actual constellation lines, Jupiter will be directly between the legs of the constellation. So you might need to, I don't know if you can zoom in or not, but if you can, try to look at this. So here is, if you take away the actual woman here, you'll see the constellation. It starts right here. There's one leg, goes across her body, and then there's the second leg, and Jupiter's right there in between the two leg lines. And the fourth thing that's going to happen is she'll have a crown of 12 stars. I apologize. She'll have a crown of 12 stars. The constellation Virgo, the Virgin, is always crowned with Leo, the lion, again right here, which is exactly 9 stars. Only in 2017 are there exactly 3 more added to create a crown of 12 stars: Mercury, Venus, and Mars. Okay, so let's read part of Revelation 12 again. A great sign appeared in the heaven. A great sign appeared in heaven. A woman clothed with the sun, with the moon at her feet, and a crown of 12 stars at her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. So that's where the Jupiter planet, the king planet, would come and play. So let me pause right here and kind of explain this a little bit more. This whole constellation and the stars that God has given us, they tell a story. And the video that I said that I'm going to have you guys watch at the end rather than at the beginning like I had originally planned, it will go into more detail about how the stars tell a story and how the constellations tell the story of the gospel and of Jesus and how God is saving the world and as he's going to come back again. It's so incredible how it's right above our heads, but we just don't see it most of the time. It takes a brilliant mind to find this information. I certainly didn't find this information. It was not discovered by me. It was discovered by other people who are way, way smarter than I am. But now that I have learned the information, I find it fascinating, absolutely fascinating. So once you watch the video about how the stars tell the story of Christ, you'll understand even more about what I'm saying now, and you might need to even come back and rewatch this to get a better understanding of it. But anyways, yeah, the constellations do tell the story of Christ and do tell the story of how God's saving the world. And to me, to know that God put these stars in the sky thousands of years ago and they tell the exact story is just incredible. I find it really incredible. Okay, so Virgo means the Virgin. Keep in mind it's telling the story of Christ. So Virgo, the Virgin, would be Mary. Jupiter, the king planet. I'll give you one guess who that could be. Who's the king? Who's our savior? That is Jesus. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind. Okay, I want to look at Stellarium together. So I'm going to kind of get out of this because I want you to see that it's not just a Google image that I have found here, that I really did do the research. And Stellarium, like I said, you should download it and look at this information for yourself. It's pretty incredible. So I'm in the program now. And I'm going to come down here at the very bottom. There's this little bar. And I'm going to pull up the constellations. Okay? So hopefully you can see that. So whoever made this program they're incredibly smart. And like I said in the previous video, or in previous videos, especially when I was talking about the blood moons, is that the sky is very mathematical. God is very mathematical. He knows what he's doing. And so that's how this program was even able to be made. It's because there are people out there who understand math so well and who have studied the sky for so long, have realized that it's all math, and so they're able to look forward and backward to tell us what has been in our skies in previous years and what's going to be in our sky in future years. And we obviously know that it's true because if you watched my blood moon videos, what happened on the exact days that I told you was going to happen? We had the blood moons. How did I know that? Through programs like this, through people that have looked at the skies and mapped it out through math. Okay, so down here at this little bar here, I turned on the constellation lines, and just to give us a better idea of how to look at it, I'm going to turn on the actual pictures of the constellations because that really helps me. So right now, let's see, it is 4:08 January 23rd Eastern Time, 4:08 Eastern Time, and you can see this is exactly what's in our skies right here. So you can see this ground right here, that's going to be the ground. I can get rid of that. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that, so we're not looking through that. So if I want to, and so we see Leo right here, and we see the part of Virgo right here. As the day continues, of course we move, and all of this is going to kind of rotate. So you're going to see that here in just a second because I'm going to speed up time. And again, I'm speeding up time and to show you what's going to be in our skies in just a little bit. So let's do, and you can see here this is military time, so this is where you're looking at the time. I'm going to forward it a little bit faster. You can go really, really fast in this. Okay, so let's just stop it right here for a second. Today, again, January 23rd, 2015, you can see this is what Virgo looks like. The sun is not with her. Jupiter is not with her. The moon is not at her feet. So I just wanted to make that very clear and point that out to let you know that this is the constellation of 2017, September 23rd, 2017 is different than what we see in our skies today. I just wanted to look around for a second. Okay, so again, you see Leo there, Virgo there. Okay, so there was something else I wanted to show you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and speed it up to September 23rd, 2017. Speed up the time. It's going very fast. I know that, sorry. Okay, I went a little past it, so let's back up just a little bit. Give me just a second. We're almost there. I don't want to click the button to go even faster because I'm afraid we'll miss it again. For a little bit further, a little bit further. Okay, all right, here we go. So this is September 23rd, 2017. Let's get rid of, I don't want to look through the atmosphere because you can see right here it's really bright. So I'm going to take that out so we look at it as if it's just the night sky. Okay, so let's go back up to Leo and let's look at this. The Virgo with 12 stars at her head. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. 12 stars at her head. You can count that. And I should have shown you for what today looks like. These stars aren't there. Okay, but anyways, let's go down to Virgo. Here she is. The sun is now here, right with her. She's clothed in the sun, and let me turn back on the atmosphere. So where it says that she's clothed in the sun, look how bright she is. I would say that her whole clothes are lit up. Okay, let's turn back the atmosphere off. Okay, so, and then Jupiter is right here in between. This is one of her legs, and then this is the other. So Jupiter is right in between her legs. I'm not sure the drawings here, who came up with those or how that came to be. It's interesting how they get these drawings out of these constellations. But anyways, that's beside the point. Okay, so, and then the moon is right here at her feet. Like I said, if we... Okay, so the time here is 4:01 p.m. September 23rd. Let's kind of speed it up just a little bit. So anyways, I don't know if you could see that accurately enough, but the moon moved down a little bit. So the moon does start to go underneath of her feet. Okay, so that's what I wanted to show you. And then I wanted to show you one more thing, just so you can see that this is only happening on this day where all of the alignments are coming together, spoken of in Revelation 12. So Revelation 12 talks about the 12 stars at her head, clothed in the sun, the moon at her feet, giving birth to the baby boy, which is supposed to be Jesus, and Jupiter represents the king planet, which would be Jesus. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and let's go forward. Well, no, let's go backward, because that's what I have in my notes. Let's go backwards. We're gonna go backwards a couple days. Okay, so let's just stop it there. Let me find Virgo again. There she is. Okay. So this is September 17th, 2017. So we can see, okay, so there's a couple things that are happening here. Jupiter is within her feet. You can see that. So that's already been prepared for her. The sun is starting to get into position. The moon's not there yet. So September 23rd is the only day that the moon is going to be at her feet. And then you can see here the planet, oh, here's the moon over here. So the moon hasn't gotten into position yet. It still has several days to get into position. And then you can see that the other planets are starting to come in with Leo and line up too. So just to show you, we'll go forward a little bit. We'll go past September 23rd. Okay, let's see. Let me find Virgo again. Where is she? Where is she? Where is she? Oh, here she is. Okay. All right. So here, this date here is October. I hope you can see this right here. Is October 4th, 2017. So what happens now? Mercury has moved down. Mars and Venus have moved down, and so Leo is no longer with 12 stars. The sun has moved from her shoulder down to around her waist area by her arm. Jupiter is still within her legs, but the moon again is not there. So everything of Revelation 12 is not here again. There are some aspects, but not everything. And it's really important to note that everything has to happen exactly the way the Bible says it's going to happen. If it wasn't going to happen that way, then God wouldn't have told us that way. So September 23rd, 2017 is the only day that the Revelation 12 constellation, the verses 1 and 2, is supposed to be in our skies. Incredible information. Let me stop and just go ahead and put it on myself for a second. Why this is so important is for a couple reasons. Revelation 12, there is some debate, and I'm not going to say either way, really, my viewpoint, because I'm not 100% sure. We still have a lot to learn about the tribulation, and the end times is exactly the way Revelation speaks of. But there are a lot of people who believe that Revelation 12 is supposed to happen in the middle of the tribulation. The reason being is because at the end of Revelation 12, John speaks of 1,260 days left. That is 3.5 years. The tribulation is supposed to be a 7-year period. So so we have the rapture at the beginning, and then we have the tribulation, 7-year period. And if this constellation is supposed to happen in the middle of the tribulation, it would be here, and then 1,260 days left would be 3.5 years. Incredible. So if you think, if it's supposed to happen in the middle of the tribulation, back up 3.5 years, well, the tribulation should have already started. The rapture should have already happened. Yeah, I know it's easy to think that and throw everything out that I'm saying, but don't do that, because God specifically says that He's going to shorten our days during this time. If it weren't for Him shortening the days, nobody would survive. So think about some catastrophic event that could shorten our days. Think about the Japan earthquake that happened a few years ago. It did shorten our days. You can Google that, look that up. I don't have that information for you within this presentation, but look it up if you don't believe me. It did shorten our days. It was like a millisecond, but still it shortened our days. So I'm saying that something probably will happen, another huge earthquake maybe, or another event. I don't know exactly what it could be, but something is going to happen to shorten our days. So the math on this of, well, if this is supposed to happen on September 23rd, 2017, and will happen, obviously, this information has proven itself to be correct as far as seeing the signs that the programs have predicted that will be in our skies. So if this is supposed to happen in the middle of the tribulation, then to back it up 3.5 years and to say that we should have already started the tribulation or the rapture, we can't do that. Obviously, we don't know the day or the time, but we can't know exactly when it happens, because God is going to shorten our days, and we can't do the math. We're not going to know everything until it's happened. But these are the signs, and I think God's revealing this information, revealing this sign to us now, because we are right at the door of this happening. I really believe that the rapture and the tribulation could happen really at any moment. I'm not predicting, I'm not saying when, I don't know, but with everything that is going on, with all of the information, all of the signs that God is giving us, I can only believe it's going to happen soon. So I'm going to let you think about that and try to move on and show you even some more stuff. Okay, so download Stellarium if you're interested in looking into the constellations and the other stars and everything. So let me get back to... Okay, there we go. All right. So I want you to watch this video. It's going to explain everything in a much more thorough way than what I can. We're going to watch the part 1 and part 2.
Greetings, everyone. Today is Tuesday, September 23rd, 2014.
I hope you can hear this.
In this video, I would like to ask the question, is God real? If God is real, then why are all the religions different? Which religion do you choose, and what do you base it on? Do you just choose one that you like? Or is there enough proof from one of these to show us that God is real, and that He proves this beyond any reasonable doubt? Out of all the gods in all the books of all the religions, there is only one of them that proves that He is real. And I'm going to prove that to you in this video. The God I am talking about is the God of the Bible. All the other religions out there, none of their gods can do what the God of the Bible does, which is tell us prophecy of the future. Now, there are different types of prophecy in our Bible, but we're going to focus on just one of them, one that man cannot touch. That is the prophecy of signs in the heavens. In the very first chapter of the very first book of the Bible, in Genesis 1:14, God says, "And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days and years." And then in Genesis 1:16 he says, "And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also." The greater light to rule the day is the sun, and the lesser light to rule the night is the moon. And he made the stars also. So back up to the top, and let there be lights, that's the sun, the moon, and the stars, in the firmament of the heaven, to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs. God says the sun, the moon, and the stars are to be used for signs. But how do we know what to look for? Does the Bible give us any other verses that tell us what we should look for in these signs in the heavens? There are 4 verses in the Bible that talk about specific signs in heaven. Revelation 12:1, "And there appeared a great sign in heaven." Revelation 12:3, "And there appeared another sign in heaven." Revelation 15:1, "And I saw another sign in heaven, great and marvelous." And Matthew 24:30, "And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven." So do these 4 signs talk about the same kind of sign that was talked about in Genesis? Let's compare Revelation 12:1 to Genesis 1:14 and 1:16. Here are these 3 verses. Let's look at them closely. "And there appeared a great sign in heaven. Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven. A woman clothed with the sun, the greater light to rule the day, and the moon under her feet, and the lesser light to rule the night. And upon her head a crown of 12 stars. He made the stars also." So if we can find this great sign in heaven from Revelation 12:1, that would prove the God from the Bible can do things that the other gods from the other books can't. He can tell us the future before it happens. In the year 2017, on September 23rd, just 3 years in our future, we find this sign. Let's read through it. Revelation 12:1 and 2. "And there appeared a great sign in heaven." This sign is right up above our heads. A woman, you know her as Virgo today, but in the Bible it just calls her the woman. A woman clothed with the sun, here's the sun clothing her, and the moon under her feet, here's the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. Now Leo has 9 stars in it, and at this time 3 of the wandering stars come through to make up the crown. Now these wandering stars come from the word planet. The word planet is ancient Greek. It means wandering star. And verse 2, "And she being with child cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered." At this point, Jupiter, one of the wandering stars, looks like it's being birthed. Now this sign has been thoroughly investigated from the time before Christ to over 6,000 years in our future, and it only happens on this day. So this isn't just a once-in-a-lifetime sign. It's a once-and-forever sign, and is now just 3 years away. Now Revelation 12 is supposed to be in the 7th trumpet, which means before this sign happens, there are 7 seals and 6 trumpets that have to happen first. And then after this sign, we should be able to find the other 3 signs that are mentioned in the Bible, and they should be in chronological order. So that sign fits very well with Revelation 12:1 and 2. We're going to skip these other 2 for now, and we're going straight for Matthew 24:30, because if we can find this, that would be a real clincher that we're on to something. Matthew 24:30, "And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory." The Son of Man in this verse is talking about Jesus. We have a number of verses in the Bible from the disciples as well as Jesus referring to himself as the Son of Man. Matthew 16:27, "For the Son of Man shall come in the glory of his Father with his angels, and then he shall reward every man according to his works." So the Son of Man is referring to Jesus. But back to Matthew 24:30, "And then shall appear the sign of Jesus." What is Jesus' sign? Philippians 2:8, And being found in fashion as a man, he humbled himself and became obedient unto death, even the death of the cross. This is Jesus' sign. It is Jesus on a cross. So when we are looking for the sign of the Son of Man, we should be looking for Jesus on a cross. On February 11th in 2021, 3.5 years after the Revelation 12 sign, we find this sign. This cross has Jupiter, the king planet or king wandering star, right next to Venus, the bright and morning star. In Revelation 22:16, Jesus says, I am the root and the offspring of David, and the bright and morning star. So here we have Jupiter the king, and it's right next to the bright and morning star. This is the current timeline. I have blacked everything out because we are going to fill things in as we go along, starting with the two we just finished.
Okay, so that kind of went into more detail about the September 23rd, 2017 constellation and sign in our skies. So, September 23rd, 2017, like he said, it fulfills Revelation 12, 1 through 2. Let's talk about Revelation 12, 3 through 4. And he explains this. And I told you that this information, as I was researching it, was mind-blowing. The information about the September 23rd, 2017 constellation, yes, it did kind of rock my world. I thought, oh my goodness, this information is incredible. But this video here is what really blew me away. And I'm not going to hesitate any longer. I'm just going to go ahead and play it for you guys.
Greetings, everyone. Today is Wednesday, October 1st, 2014. Welcome to my series, Is God Real? Part 2. In this video, we're going to finish the first 4 signs that are specifically talked about as being signs in the heavens. The Revelation 12, 1 and 2 sign that we've already talked about fits very nicely. The Matthew 24:30 sign that we just finished fits very nicely. But if these two are correct, then somewhere between them, we have to find Revelation 12:3 and Revelation 15:1's sign in the heavens. Revelation 12, verses 3 to 6. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. And his tail drew the 3rd part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. Now the verses in yellow are a description of the dragon. We're just looking for the sign at this point. And the sign we are looking for is a great red dragon or a fiery dragon. And the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered. This is the same woman out of Revelation 12, 1 and 2. In Revelation 12, 1 and 2, we have a woman travailing in birth. And then in verse 4, we have a woman which is ready to be delivered. This is the same woman, it's the same birth. What we have to do is go find the woman as she's ready to be delivered and see if there's a fiery dragon standing in front of her. Just 3 weeks after the Revelation 12, 1 and 2 great sign in the heaven, we see this. Jupiter is 2 days from being born right here. The following day, it's going to be right on the constellation line. The day after that is going to be outside the constellation. So this fulfills the verse of being ready to be delivered. Do you see a fiery dragon standing in front of this woman? Could the sun be the fiery dragon? The sun is standing right in front of the woman. And this fiery dragon has burned your skin before. Now, if this is true, this does fulfill the first part of this sign. But there's more. Back to Revelation 12, verses 3 to 6, let's add verse 5. And she brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, that's Jesus, and her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. Now, verse 6 is talking about a different part of the sign that we are going to talk about in a later video. Revelation 12:5, and her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. This part of the sign happens over a period of about 2 months. It starts with the fiery dragon standing in front of the woman as she's about to give birth, and ends with the child caught away up to God's throne. What we are going to watch in this sign is Jupiter being born, and the fiery dragon, the sun, is going to start swooping in to try to devour the child. But before he can do that, Mercury comes by and makes a close conjunction with Jupiter as if catching the child away, and we're going to watch the sun chase Mercury across the sky, and Mercury is going to end up in God's throne. But before we do that, I need to remove a few things. Here is the sign in Revelation 12:5. I hope you were able to see that. Now, why do I think this group of the sun surrounded by 4 planets is God's throne? Let's zoom in on it and take a look. The reason I think this is a throne is because it looks like a 3-dimensional image. I believe this is the end of another sign talked about in the heavens in Revelation 12:3-6. So those 2 parts fit very well with Revelation 12:3-6's another sign in heaven. Now, before we go on to Revelation 15:1, we need to go back to Matthew 24:29, the verse right before this one, because there's another sign mentioned there. Matthew 24:29 and 30. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. So before the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, we have a sun darkened, that's a solar eclipse. We have a moon not giving her light, that's a new moon. We have stars falling from heaven, that's a meteor shower. And the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. We still don't know what this is. I believe it's something that shall happen that we don't know about. On December 14th of 2020, we see Matthew 24:29. We have a total solar eclipse on this day. Anytime there is a solar eclipse, you have a new moon, and we have the Geminids meteor shower on this day. The reason I needed to show you this sign from Matthew 24:29 and how it is located on December 14th, 2020 is that between this sign and the sign on December 17th of the throne is where the 7 angels have to be located, and there can only be 7 of them. Now, I spent about 2 months trying to figure out what these 7 angels were, and I finally pretty much given up until I made a connection between Matthew 24:29 and another verse out of the Bible. In Revelation chapter 19, verses 17 to 19, we find the Battle of Armageddon. But I'm just going to focus on the very first part of this, and I saw an angel standing in the sun. So in Matthew 24:29, we have a solar eclipse, and then in Revelation 19:17, we have an angel standing in the sun. Now, it is my theory that the angel standing in the sun represents a solar eclipse. I believe these 2 verses are talking about the same period of time. I believe the angel standing in the sun in Revelation 19:17 is the sun darkened in Matthew 24:29. So between the throne on December 17th, 2017 and the solar eclipse on December 14th, 2020, there have to be exactly 7 solar eclipses. And there are exactly 7 eclipses between these two signs. The first 4 are partial eclipses, the 5th is a total eclipse, and the last 2 are annular eclipses. These 7 eclipses correspond with 7 angels carrying the 7 bowls with the 7 last plagues. And I have 7 times the confirmation that the 7th eclipse is in fact the 7th angel, but we do not have time to go into that in this video. So back to the total eclipse on December 14th, 2020. This is marking the end of the tribulation period and marking the beginning of the Battle of Armageddon. We also have 3 signs that seem to back up this theory that we're going to talk about in a future video. So those are the basics of the 4 signs that are specifically mentioned in the Bible as being a sign in heaven. So here are the things we've talked about in this video, and here's what we have so far. We have Revelation 12, 1 and 2's great sign of a woman clothed with the sun, the moon under her feet, a crown of 12 stars, travailing in birth. And we have Revelation 12, 3 to 6's another sign of a fiery dragon standing in front of the woman as she's about to give birth, and her child is caught up unto God and to his throne. We have the 7 angels and 7 plagues from Revelation 15:1's great and marvelous sign. We have Matthew 24:29, sun darkened, and Revelation 19:17, angel standing in the sun. We then have Matthew 24:30's sign of the Son of Man with King Jesus on the cross. The last thing I want to talk about in this video is the 7th millennium. On the Hebrew calendar, we have just passed over into the 7th millennium on both the spiritual and civil calendars. And in the first 7 years of the 7th millennium, we have the 4 signs spoken of in the Bible showing up. And the great sign in Revelation 12, 1 and 2 is now less than 3 years away. And before this happens, there are 7 seals and 6 trumpets.
Okay, so do you find that information as fascinating as I did? It cannot be a coincidence that all of this is happening. It just can't be. If you want to look into more of his videos, he has several, and this is his YouTube video name right here. So just go onto youtube.com and type in this in the little search finder area, and you'll come up with his videos. But I showed you part 1 and part 2. Incredible, incredible information. There's really nothing else that I can say about it because I think the information has already been given so clearly by these 2 videos. But my goodness, my mind is just absolutely going crazy right now with excitement because, again, we're seeing this unfold right before our eyes. And, you know, like I said in the past, if just one of these things were happening, okay, maybe you could throw it out as a coincidence or something. But with everything that's happening, not just with this presentation, but think about all the way back to when I first started doing presentations about the natural disasters, the blood moons, the uprisings, the information about the Pope, then this, and you know, and that's just the information that I'm able to research and share with you. There's so much more out there that I haven't even had a chance to get to yet. So with all of that, it's not a coincidence. It just isn't. And I certainly loved finding out this information as I found it really incredible. Okay, so do you feel small yet? Let's go back to if the earth was the size of a golf ball. We're going to finish watching that video because I think that the rest of... sorry. It's already pulled up right here. Okay, so I think the rest of the information is really great, especially now knowing what we know. So let me just go ahead and play this.
And do you know that you couldn't come up here right now with a Sharpie and make a mark on the screen that would approximate the size of our sun? You couldn't even do it. When you look at these in their relative size, we just have to put a little arrow over there that says, if you could put the sun on here, which you can't, it would go somewhere about here. And can you hang on that for me? And when you see this, I don't know what happens to you, but I'll tell you what happens to me. A shrinking feeling comes over me, and it's not a bad shrinking feeling, it's a good shrinking feeling. Because sin, it has a way of shrinking God down in our minds and puffing us up in our own estimation. But just a glance into the universe that God has made resizes everything in a heartbeat. And you realize tonight we are worshiping an unrivaled, uncontested God of all kind of might and power and glory and awe, there's none like him anywhere in all of creation tonight. We are not here worshiping some little teeny tiny God. We are the teeny tiny ones, you and me. We are small and weak and fragile and frail. We are, you and me tonight, one of 6.5 billion people on this little golf ball sized planet in this massive universe that God has made. But I'll tell you, the miracle of tonight is crazy and crazier to me than the size of any star. Is that though we are but a vapor, you and me, and tiny and frail, we are marked by majesty. And we have been created in the very image of the God who breathes out the stars and put the universe into place. You and I are fashioned and formed and ordained by the God of all creation. We are fearfully and wonderfully made, you and I. We are a miracle. You're a miracle sitting in the building tonight. If I could just remind you just for a moment, you are somebody incredibly special. Let me just dial back to the beginning, and I know you know this already, but in the very, very beginning, here's how you happened, okay? One cell from your mom found one cell from your dad. Now, there's more involved in that than that, but that's enough for us right now. And by the way, we should applaud the one cell from your dad, because that one cell did a pretty heroic thing to be the one cell in the story that we're talking about tonight. One cell from your mom met up with one cell from your dad, each one carrying 23 chromosomes. The one from your mom was carrying half of her DNA. The one from your dad was carrying half of his DNA. And those two cells met and merged into one single cell. And when they did, those chromosomes matched, and they began to form together a brand new DNA code. Using 4 characters, 4 nucleotides, they began to write out what we have now discovered is the 3 billion character description of who you are, written in the language of God. They wrote out your DNA, your human genome, 3 billion characters made up of those 4 simple nucleotides. And when they did, they described who God had ordained you to be. In that one little simple cell. Scientists say if you took the DNA out of that one little cell and stretched it out, that DNA would be 6 feet long. 3 billion characters stretched out to 6 feet long. So amazing that if I were to read your DNA, reading 1 character per second, night and day, it would take me 96 years just to read the description of you. And when they formed together, they wrote out and painted a picture which had never been written before in the history of humankind. And then that cell did the unthinkable. It set out to build that model from one cell. I'm telling you, you are a miracle sitting in this building tonight. And you have come a long, long way. I mean, here you are. This may not be in the family photo album, but here you are at 3 days old. 16 cells of you. You say, what in the world is that? It's a 16-cell human embryo on the tip of a safety pin at incredible magnification. So by now that one cell had turned into 16 cells on its way to making the 75 trillion cells that make up your body tonight. Every one of those 75 trillion cells containing that 6 feet of the 3 billion character DNA code that you... There's so much DNA in your body, by the way. If you stretched it all end to end, there'd be enough DNA to go to the moon and back inside your body. 178,000 times. That's how amazing God has made you to be. 75 trillion cells in your body. And when I told you that, 50,000 of those cells died and were replaced by brand new cells when I told you that. And then just now, 50,000 more cells died and were replaced by brand new cells. It's happening every 3 seconds, day and night, all the days of your existence. And you wonder why you're tired all the time. I'll tell you, you're doing some amazing stuff night and day. We're miracles, you and me. I love the way Augustine said it, one of the great fathers of the church and of the faith. He just nailed it when he said it like this. Men go abroad to wonder at the height of mountains, the huge waves of the sea, the long course of rivers, the vast compass of the ocean, the circular motion of the stars. But they pass by themselves, and they don't even notice. In the womb, miracles happen every moment. Here you are at 5 months in the womb. Do you remember those days? Those were the good old days. And just miracles happening every second. Let me tell you about one. 1 million optic nerve endings left the optic nerve center of your brain in the womb, headed for 1 million optic nerves that had left your eye. And they had to meet and match their exact partner, 1 million looking for 1 million. And when they found their exact partner out of 1 million and matched up together, in that instant you had sight. And anyone would tell you that to this moment, the most technologically advanced thing on planet Earth is your eye. Oh, but it didn't do you any good, because when that moment happened, you just had one piece of skin completely covering your eyeball. But as I read in one textbook, miraculously and mysteriously at about the 6th month, a little cutting device appeared, and it cut perfectly that piece of skin. And you had eyelids for the very first time in your mother's womb. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. And the God of the heavens is the one who fashioned you together. And he knows your name tonight. And he knows every single thing there is to know about you. And he's made you a promise that for those who trust in him, he will literally hold them in his hand and carry them all the days of their life. This Psalm 33 that talks about a star-breathing God turns an interesting corner. It says, for he spoke and it came to be. He commanded and it stood fast. That's power and awe. But now it gets very personal. From heaven the Lord looks down and sees all mankind. From his dwelling place he watches all who live on earth. He who forms the hearts of them all and is intimately acquainted with everything they do. And then he goes even further. And he says, the eyes of the Lord are on those who fear him, on those who hope in his unfailing love. And here comes his promise, to deliver them from death and to keep them alive in famine. And that is the promise tonight, because this building and our world is filled with hurting people with lives that are spinning out of control, with pain that we didn't ask for or could never imagine. And God is making a promise to us tonight. He's saying, I am a universe maker and I am a heart former, but I'm also big enough to be intimately acquainted with all the circumstances of every one of your lives. And I promise you, no matter what comes in this lifetime, no matter how difficult the road or how dark the night, I will hold on to you and I will literally hold you together and carry you through any and every circumstance that ever comes your way, any moment on this planet. It's the promise of God. And you say, well, man, that sounds good, but how do I know that's true in my life right now, Louis? I mean, that's really what we want to know tonight. And I'll tell you how you can know tonight that God will always hold you together, no matter what. It's by looking a little deeper into the human body, and it's a little protein molecule called laminin. That's about what I felt the first time I heard that. Long story short, the tour was winding down. Last time around, we were in Tyler, Texas. The night was over. A guy walks up to me. I wish I could tell you the whole story. It was so of God. Introduces himself to me, says, how are you doing? I just want to say hello. I said, it's nice to meet you. He says, you guys winding the tour down? Where are you going to go from here? I said, well, I'm on my way back home to Atlanta, Georgia. He said, well, what's next for you? I said, I'm going to be preaching the next 2 Sundays for my pastor back in Atlanta. He said, oh, cool. What are you preaching on? I said, well, the series is on the glory of God in the human body. He said, that's really amazing. I'm a molecular biologist at the university down the road. Give me your talk. And I was like, oh, wow, I wasn't quite yet ready to unload the talk for a molecular biologist. So I kind of stumbled through what I had, and he's kind of being kind and gracious and like, that's good. And then he says, well, what's your big left hook? You got to have a left hook, a big finish, right? I said, I don't have a left hook yet. He said, oh, Louis, oh, man, your left hook is laminin. And I'm totally blank on laminin. He goes, Louis, it's a cell adhesion molecule. Protein molecule? Do you know about proteins? I'm like, no. He said, Louis, cells organize into certain molecular structures, and that determines what protein there are. There are between 10 and 60,000 proteins in the human body. We don't even know how many proteins are in the human body. But one of them is a cell adhesion molecule. It's organized into this certain structure, and that tells the cell what its job is in the body. And this one is a cell adhesion molecule. And I'm like, all right. He said, no, Louis, it's like the rebar of the human body. The steel they put in the concrete when they lay the foundations of things, it's that stuff. It's holding your membranes together. It's the glue of the human body, Louis. It's laminin. You got to tell them about laminin. And I'm like, I promise you, I'm going home and tell them about laminin. And I'm sure when I do, revival is going to sweep across the church and probably around the world when I tell them. He said, no. You got to see laminin. I'm like, okay, let's see it. He said, no. You need to go look it up online. You need to go Google laminin. Like, I don't even know how to spell laminin. Takes his card out. He writes on the back, Laminin. I'm like, okay, I cannot wait to get to my computer and get on Google, click images, type in laminin, and I'm waiting, and these little thumbnails come up on the screen, and I'm like, wow, that's laminin, the cell adhesion molecule. Woo! I am so excited. I am beside myself. I cannot believe what I'm seeing. I love laminin. I'm so fired up. You should see laminin, I guess. That's the thing, right? Okay. Here is a scientific diagram of the laminin cell adhesion molecule that's holding your body together right now. Okay, this is what I found right here. No, come on, that's crazy. That's just crazy. I just can't believe it. I emailed I got back so fast, I'm like, wow, 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 what in the world? He said, you want to see an actual laminin molecule? I'm like, oh no, man, the diagram was cool for me. I'm happy with that. Don't bother sending anything else. I'm like, yes! He sends me this image, an electron microscopic image of an actual laminin protein molecule. It looks just like this. I'm like, how crazy is that? That the stuff that holds our bodies together, that's holding the lining of your organs together, holding your skin on, is in the perfect shape of the cross of our Lord Jesus Christ. And immediately I'm thinking about the words of Paul in Colossians 1. You know this beautiful passage where Paul's talking about the supremacy of Christ and the sufficiency of Christ. He says, for by him, talking about Jesus Christ, all things have been created. Things in heaven and things on earth. All things were created by Jesus and for Jesus. But then the next verse goes on to say this. It's crazy. And he, Jesus, is before all things. And in him, that is, in Jesus Christ, all things hold together. It's right there. I'm like, of course they do. Of course they do. Everything holds together in Jesus Christ. And he goes on at the end of this paragraph, and he just tells the story of grace. He says, for God was pleased to have all his fullness dwell in Christ, and through Christ to reconcile to himself all things by making peace through his blood shed on a cross. So you're at the toughest place in your life. How can you know that God is going to hold you together and bring you through? You know, because there is a cross standing over history, and it is looming over this building tonight. It is the place where the star breather became the sin bearer, where the universe maker became mankind's savior. And it is proof that God doesn't always change the circumstances. He did not change them for Jesus on that hillside outside Jerusalem. But the cross is also proof that God always has a purpose in the circumstances, and that his purpose and his plan will prevail and will triumph through any circumstances in this world. So we just close with this question. It's found right in the middle of an interesting chapter in Isaiah 40 where it just talks about the expanse of God. He stretches out the heavens like a curtain, like a tent to dwell in. He leads forth the starry host one by one and calls them each by name. But then it takes a turn. And the writer of Isaiah says, so why do you say, O Jacob? And why do you complain, O Israel? My way is hidden from the Lord. Or say, my cause is disregarded by my God. In other words, there was a moment in the history of Israel when they felt like God had completely lost sight of them. That yes, I believe that God is big enough to make the world. I even believe that God ordained and made me. And now coming present tense, I'll accept the fact that God gave his son on a cross. But what I really need to know right now, what really matters most to me right now is, does God see what I'm going through? Does he see what I'm carrying? Does he know that I can't take one more step or one more day? Does he care? And can he do something? That's what I need to know. And Isaiah answers it. He answers with another question. And it's a question for us here. He says, do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. He's huge. He is a star breather. He's big. But listen to what he loves to do. That God, that creator of the ends of the earth, that I do not grow tired or weary, that my understanding's too great for you, that God, here's what he does. He gives strength to the weary, and he increases the power of the weak. For even the youths will grow tired and weary, and young men will stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord, another translation, those who wait upon the Lord. The Hebrew word simply means this. When it says hope and wait, it means that those who stand right in the midst of the craziness, right in the midst of the pain, right in the midst of the chaos, right in the valley of the shadow of death, and they don't gloss over it. They're dealing with the hardest stuff in life, but standing in the middle of it, they say, you know what? I don't see what God's doing. I don't understand what the plan is, but I'll tell you one thing. I am not going to give up on God, and I'm going to stand right here in the middle of this moment, and I'm going to trust that God is sitting on a throne, that he has a purpose for my life and a plan for my life. And I believe I'm going to see the goodness of God in the land of the living, and I'm not going to stop believing that no matter what. That's what the word means, to wait and to hope, Lord. And he said, here's the promise. You're going to wake up to rosy circumstances. No. Oh, he can do that, and he does do that. But the promise is greater than that. He said, those who wait upon the Lord, here's what I promise. I will renew your strength. And when you think you can't take one more breath, I'll give you enough to keep going on. And enough to keep going on. And enough to keep going on. You keep hoping, and I'll keep causing strength to rise when you hope. And you keep going. And you will feel like you have been swept up on the wings of eagles, and you will run and not get weary, and walk through it all and not faint. He said, I will hold you. Even when you let go of me, I'm not going to let go of you. Did you know there are millions and millions and millions of microscopic crosses holding you together right now? And one giant, glorious cross of Jesus Christ that's holding every one of us that's trusted in him onto the Heavenly Father, and holding the Heavenly Father onto us. And it's going to keep holding us onto him, that cross, forever and ever and ever and ever. We will never not be carried by the strong hand of a universe-making God, and he will bring us through. That is the promise of the everlasting God.
Wow. I don't even know how to follow up with that, really. I really don't.
Hi, Mommy.
Hi. Excuse me, my son just woke up. Go watch your show, please. So I don't know how to follow that up, except to say the question remains, are you saved? If you're not, if you are, let's talk about if you are. If you are, if the answer is yes, then I'm so happy that you've made that decision, and that the information that you've received today and the information that I've given to you in other videos, I hope that you take that information and just deepen your relationship with Christ and God, and share this information with others, because we are in a time like no other. And I pray that you see it as strongly as I see it. And then, you know, if you're not saved, what are you waiting for? What is going to have to happen in order for you to put your faith and trust in God and Christ? You know, it's not a coincidence, all this information. Think about everything we went through today. We talked about the universe in its greatness and grandness and how huge it is, and that's just what we can understand. And then we talk about how the constellations are telling the story of Christ and his birth, and the constellations show a cross in the sky. And then we go into talking about from the greatness of the universe to how the small microorganisms in our body. So from the universe with the cross in the sky all the way down to the laminin crosses in our own body. It's not a coincidence, and I hope that you can see that so badly. God is trying to communicate with humanity to try to tell us that he is drawing near and that our days are limited here on earth. The next video that I'm going to do is I'm going to discuss what the tribulation really is, because that's one thing that I've not done, and I feel like maybe I should have done it sooner, and I apologize that I haven't, because I just kind of assume that everybody understands what the tribulation means and what the end means, but maybe that's not the case. Maybe there's some out there that you are understanding this information. You see the signs happening, but you don't really know what's to come. So we're going to go into that the next video. So like I said, if you're not saved, what are you waiting for? The signs are here. God he is chasing after you so badly. It's not hard to be saved. It's not. But I want to make sure that everybody understands that it's a personal decision. Nobody can make that decision for you. I feel like there's a lot of people out there that think that they're saved just because they have moms and dads or grandparents or somebody in their families that are saved and that prays on a regular basis. And but that's not what saves you. In fact, the Bible actually says, "Then you will begin to say, 'We ate and drank in your presence, and you taught in our streets.' And he will say, 'I tell you, I do not know where you are from. Depart from me, all you evildoers.' In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of the teeth when you see Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and all the prophets in the kingdom of God, but yourselves being thrown out." I don't want that for any of you. I don't want you to have a false salvation. I don't want you to think that you're saved and not really be saved. To be saved, you have to put your trust in God completely. And here I'm going to read this little paragraph here. Believe in the Lord Jesus and you will be saved. That Acts 16:31 talks about that. God has already done all of the work for you. Prior to Christ coming and dying on the cross, it was extremely hard to be 100% saved, and you had so many rules and laws, and if you sinned you had to do sacrifices. Thank God that we don't have to do that anymore. Christ was the ultimate sacrifice for us. So all you must do is receive in faith the salvation God offers, Ephesians 2:8-9. Fully trust in Jesus alone as the payment of your sins. Believe in him and you will not perish, John 3:16. God is offering you salvation as a gift. All you have to do is accept it. Jesus is the way of salvation, John 14:6. So with that, I'm going to go back so you can read that. With that, I'm going to right now just go ahead and say a prayer. And if you choose to say this prayer with me, then I am so excited for you. If you're already saved, maybe during this time pray for somebody that you love who's not saved. So Lord God, we just come to you right now and we just thank you so much that even with the whole universe, as big as it is, you love us here and you love us individually, and you care for our needs and our wants, and you have a plan for our lives. You have a plan for humanity, a plan for creation. You put the stars in the skies thousands and thousands of years ago, and you knew exactly what they were going to be doing at this moment, right now, and in the future. You've laid out all the plans, and I thank you, Lord God, that you are showing us these plans, and that you're allowing us to see this information and to understand it, where many generations, every generation up until now, has never understood this information. They didn't have the technology to understand it. They didn't maybe have all the information coming together like we do. And I pray so much that you will continue to give us more information and let us be those watchmen that you have called us to be, to watch for your signs and to watch for your presence. And when you start the tribulation and when the rapture happens, Lord God, I just pray that I and everybody who I care about and the viewers that are watching this, everybody that they care about, Lord God, I just pray that we will be raptured up with you so that we do not have to endure the terrible things of the tribulation as they are so near. Lord God, I just ask that you will forgive our sins. You've already, like the scriptures say, you've already done all of the work for us. There's nothing that we need to do except to accept the salvation that you've given to us so freely. Thank you so much for Jesus, and thank you for the salvation that he gave us when he died on that cross. Thank you for the crosses in the sky. Thank you for the crosses in our own bodies. The fact that we know this information is just incredible to me, and I thank you so much for all of that. Lord God, please forgive us of our sins and let us move on this day forward, acknowledging you and living the life that you want us to live. And please, Lord God, when your day comes, when it's time for us to be called home, Lord, I just ask that you will take us and that you will let us live with you forever. Lord, be with us, as it's not easy it's not easy being a Christian. I understand that. I know, especially for new Christians, there's a lot of information that they need to, that they need to understand about, sometimes how it can be a little hard. The world does not accept Christianity as much as what it should, and I just pray 100% that for the people that are praying this prayer, that they will, in their newfound faith, that they will 100% accept you and move forward with their lives in the ways that they should. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so... Yes, baby. Okay, so sorry about the toddler in the background. It is what it is. But anyways, I know that this has been a little deeper than my previous videos, but I think it's so important. We are at such a time where we can't play around anymore. Giving you the information is great, but there has to be a purpose behind that information. And the purpose is that I hope that, like I said, that you take this information to heart, that you trust in God even further with this information and grow your relationship with Him, and that then at this point you share the information with others, because I honestly just do not know how much time we have. I say that in full urgency. We may have 15 years, we may have 20 years, we may have 2 days, I don't know. We're not going to know, but God would not be giving us these signs right now if He didn't want us to see them. And it says in the Bible that the information is locked up for when the time is here, and we're in that time frame, we're in that season. Going back to the whole fig tree analogy that Jesus told His disciples, and you can go back and through my other videos and look at that, the Mount Olive speech that He gave, the Olivet Discourse in Matthew 24. So you can go back through and look at that if you have not watched the other videos and do not know what I'm talking about. But the whole analogy of the fig tree is that we don't know exactly the day or the time or the hour that the rapture will happen, the tribulation will happen, but we are supposed to know the season, and we're in that season. We know that it should be happening any time. So anyways, a lot of information. Oh my goodness. Oh, and let me pull you back here, because the video that I had in the very beginning, okay, where is it? Yes, okay. I want you to go and watch this video, please. It doesn't specifically speak of the September 23rd, 2017 constellation in our skies, but it's an incredible video that will give you even more insight on exactly how God has laid out the Gospels in the stars. It's called the Star of Bethlehem, and I'll read Matthew 2:1-3 here. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east, came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him." So when the Magi, that is the wise men that we all know about, when they told King Herod, "We saw his star when it rose," that's what this whole video is about, is the Star of Bethlehem. It's incredible information. I really think you guys need to watch it. It is about an hour long, so you might have to do this video in 2 different parts. But do watch it. I think it'll give you a lot of insight, like I said, on how God speaks to us through the stars and how his whole story is pronounced in our skies. Okay, that is it for right now. I will do another video, like I said, the next time, going into what does the tribulation mean, and I will talk to you guys soon. Thanks.